This long radio silence has been deafening. Where the hell have you been?
On a covert mission, preparing for IGDC. I have some updates for you.
Ishan and Raghav here with Epsilon protocol updates. This time we had a hard deadline, getting the game ready to show at IGDC. This made us work longer and complete a playable demo. For 3 months, I had been working on something that served no purpose in the game except to look cool. I'm talking about the start menu, which I had planned to be a diorama. For the environment, I'm simply using a free environment from Epic Games. I made minor changes in the water material and the skybox to make them red and get a good contrast with a dark and gloomy environment. Then, I placed all player units, enemy units, and a boss unit, meticulously posing them bone by bone. A total of 39 characters. And I'm not gonna count the bones. This part took painfully long. If you wanna torture someone, make them do this. Beware future employees. Once this ordeal was over, I set up a camera rig rail and keyframed all camera moves. The rail is perfectly looped. I applied all the comic book shaders and tweaked the lighting to get a dark battle feel. Added 2D Niagara effects we were already using for the game and keyframed events to pause them at a particular frame. To finish the scene setup, I added rain decals and attached the rain particle emitter to the camera instead of spawning them on the whole level. This requires fewer particles and saved computations. After shortlisting and trying several copyright-free music tracks, I found a perfect one that even matched the camera moves. But it was 2 minutes shorter than needed, so I extended it in Audacity by slicing and reusing sections. One of my smaller tasks was to create a temporary how-to play section. I recorded clips explaining all mechanics, added descriptive text, and handed them over to Raghav. Since we have a comic book art style, it's only fitting to have cutscenes look like comic book pages. I had to create 2 cutscenes. The step-by-step process goes like this: animating the characters and environment in the sequencer, rendering the clips, bringing those clips into DaVinci Resolve, creating shape masks for each panel containing a clip, and animating the panel position and mask shape. The next thing on the list was fun: creating looping background music for the level. Again, I got a copyright-free track, slowed it down, and sliced it up into sections depending on the intensity and feel. I plan to have 4 intensity levels based on the number of enemies alerted, and 1 for the boss fight. Then, I noted the time signatures for each section. In Unreal Engine, I created a meta sound player with triggers to change sections. I made sure the loop section change only triggers at the end of any bar. I finished it by creating events in the level blueprint to activate the triggers. Now, it's time to make the game perfectly balanced. Not really possible though. Anyway, I tuned the game by creating a sheet for all player and enemy attributes. This task was so mundane and ad hoc that I won't discuss what all these values mean. Pause and feel free to read it yourself. I did not do any analytical calculations. I just entered whatever felt right. The values from the sheet were then copied to corresponding variables in the game. Ideally, it should have been a data table in the game itself, but it works for now. We'll pay the technical debt later.
This time, I worked on getting the level ready for a demo release on Steam. Many things were left to do, but I first tackled the level's objective. In the demo level, the player would have to get any insurgent to the reactor in the last room of the power plant, disable the reactor, and then move all the units to the evacuation zone. On reaching the evacuation zone, a boss is spawned. The player must defeat the boss and get to the next evacuation zone. The flow trigger used for interaction at the reactor console is the same as the flow triggers used for the doors. By the time I was done with placing the objective, Ishan had created the cutscenes. I incorporated them into the objective workflow. Created a new widget blueprint for cutscenes with the video source as an image displayed on the whole screen and a flip page button on the right bottom. 5 possible units can complete the first objective. A cutscene is played depending on which unit interacts with the fuel cell. The second cutscene was straightforward. Creating widget blueprint for tutorial videos was very similar. Instead of playing one video on full screen, I had to play 6 tutorial videos made by Ishan in a box with 3 buttons: previous, next and exit. I had already created a UI for the main menu and pause menu. To them, I added the wishlist on Steam button, an end screen and a credit screen. I started creating audio settings for the game. Adding volume control was effortless. In the Unreal Engine, you just have to make a sound class for each type of audio category you want in the game. We created 4 sound classes: Master, Ambient, Music, and Sound Effects. The last 3 classes were added as the children to the Master sound class. A sound class mix file was created to control the audio mixing part. Now, I just needed to specify which class they belong to in each audio source file. In hindsight, I should have looked into sound setting before adding audio files to the game. I added sliders to adjust the volume for the 4 categories. The slider values set the volume in the sound class mix file. Unlike the graphics settings, there is no apply button. Instead, the slider values are checked for any change once every 0.2 seconds. A new basic save system was created using the player preferences to save the audio settings. This save system will save all the customization we add in the future. While working on audio settings, I made the graphics settings functional as they were implemented, but they didn't work as I only updated the values in the Unreal user settings but did not call the function to apply them. I moved the graphics and audio settings to the new option menu. To reuse the option menu, I used the content switcher and kept one widget blueprint for the start and pause menu. The UI now needed a new coat of paint. I made the button backgrounds for all the elements in Inkscape in different dimensions as shown in the last devlog video, including the interact pop-up. During all this work, a constant battle occurs in the background. Regime versus the bugs. The regime wants a total victory over these pestering bugs, but every time the regime gets close to its throat, it vomits out a new batch of bugs.
With all this done, we were ready to build and submit a demo for both IGDC and Steam. Go wishlist it on Steam now. I said, now. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.